what you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
Footcandle Films. Film news and reviews from two guys who really like movies.
This episode is brought to you by the Footcandle Film Society. For a schedule of upcoming screenings and membership information, visit the Society's website at www.footcandle.org.
Hey everybody, this is Alan and Chris.
Hello.
Welcome to Footcandle Films here on the Mesh.tv. Recording this a little bit later than normal. We took a little bit of a break. We've got some busy schedules going on. This little thing called work sometimes just gets in the way.
It does.
The day job. The darn day job. We love it, but we also means that sometimes we don't get to record this episode as often as we'd like. So now we're trying to get back on schedule.
Right.
We're getting a little caught up, but this is Footcandle Films here on the Mesh.tv. We're your film review and discussion show. We've got a couple films we're going to be discussing this episode. Both of them available online. They're both ones that you can find on Amazon, on iTunes. So that's good. It means it's a film that, hey, if you're interested in what we're talking about, you actually have an opportunity to go and listen to or watch it online tonight, right now.
Absolutely.
Right after you turn off this podcast, you can go watch it. This is the Mesh.tv, where we have a whole series of podcast shows that we put out. Online audio programs available for free. You can go and download it anytime or go back in time and listen to past episodes. Or even better, subscribe to our show. And by doing that, you're guaranteed, you're going to get every new episode we put out delivered right to your virtual doorstep when it is ready. We recommend you can go online at iTunes to do that. You can go through the Mesh website, and there's a nice convenient button for both iTunes and even Stitcher Radio to listen to and subscribe to the show right away. Chris,
yes.
So we have two reviews, and I've already kind of prefaced, you and I do not discuss reviews before the show begins recording.
Correct.
And I think that's good. I think that's healthy because then your reaction to a film and mine, we both are listening, kind of getting each other's reaction at the same time, and we can respond accordingly. We don't have any prepped responses if one hates a film and the other one loves it.
Right.
I'll go ahead and tell you, I've got fairly emotional responses to both the films we're going to be reviewing today.
Excellent.
I just don't know if they're going to match up with your perceptions or not. So I'll be very curious to see. The two films we're discussing, first off, Mr. Paul Thomas Anderson, P.T. Anderson, as his friends may call him, with his latest Inherent Vice.
Okay.
The second film we'll be discussing is a very small budget independent film called Buzzard that we will discuss in more detail a little bit later. We may squeeze in a little bit of movie news here and there, and then we're going to, of course, close off the episode as normal, which we do with our recommendation of the month. That can be a film that's maybe we just recently checked out online, maybe we revisited, maybe we just think something you ought to check out if you have a chance. So with that, Chris, are you ready to jump into our first review?
I am. Let's do it.
Let's talk about our first film today, Inherent Vice.
If it's a quiet night out at the beach and your ex-old lady suddenly out of nowhere shows up with a story about her current billionaire land developer boyfriend and his wife and her boyfriend and a plot to kidnap the billionaire and throw him in a loony bin,
I need your help, Doc.
maybe you should just look the other way. But if you're Doc, it may all start to get a little peculiar after that.
Michael Z. Wolfman
And Mickey Wolfman.
Mickey Wolfman.
has vanished.
So where would I find him?
He's technically Jewish, but wants to be a Nazi.
And a girl don't necessarily want to get into difficulties with those folks.
Got a spare picture I could borrow?
As you mentioned, Inherent Vice is Paul Thomas Anderson's latest film. I'm going to lean on IMDb here a little bit and give you what it says is the summary of this movie. In 1970, drug-fueled Los Angeles, Detective Larry Doc Sportello, played by Mr. Joaquin Phoenix, investigates the disappearance of a former girlfriend. Now, Alan, I've heard it said that with the purchase of a movie ticket, or in this case, purchasing it online, they should do one of two things. They should either automatically give you a second ticket, or in this chance, a second viewing of this movie automatically, so buy one, get one free type deal, or with the purchase of a movie ticket or watching this movie once, they should provide you with, let's say, a plant that can be rolled and you should smoke it while watching this movie to enhance your enjoyment of this movie. So they should do one of the two things. They should either let you alter yourself slightly, or they should provide you the chance with watching this movie twice.
Okay.
Do you agree that that might be preferred viewing way to watch this movie? To kick off our little conversation.
I will argue I don't know if the second option is going to dramatically change the enjoyment of the film. That's my take on it.
So altering yourself somehow?
I don't think so, because honestly, I was expecting this to be a much more psychedelic, drug-riddled film than I got.
Okay.
And I was actually kind of surprised it wasn't.
Okay.
Now, the first option about a second viewing, yes, automatically.
Okay.
Actually, it's to the point where I watched this film in 2 parts. I watched it night before last.
Okay.
Got two-thirds of the way through. Watched it, the final part, last night, and had to go back and rewind and play other parts again. And I really want to sit down and watch it all the way through a second time.
Let's be clear. This is a 2.5-hour movie.
Yeah.
So it's a long one.
And Chris, something I'm going to challenge us to start doing with our reviews going forward, just because I think it'd be interesting to try to do, is to see if we can come up with a one-word review. And I'm going to ask you later on in our discussion for that one-word review. But to go ahead and set mine up, because it's going to tell you where I'm coming from.
Okay.
My word is demanding.
Wow.
This is a demanding film.
Okay.
Now, I will tell you, I enjoyed it.
Okay.
But man, I had no idea what was going on. Okay.
Okay.
It's one of these, I'm giving it a lower rating than probably what it really deserves. But the lower rating is purely because the plot is so incoherent. And I think that's intentionally done. I think the point is to let you know that the plot really doesn't matter at the end of the day.
It's more about the feel of the time period.
And the feel was awesome. Okay,
Gotcha.
The music, the dress, the dialogue, the settings, everything was awesome. I mean, I love Paul Thomas Anderson films in general, and this one definitely had all those elements that I love about a good P.T. Anderson film.
Okay.
I just can't give it a glowing review because I just didn't know what the hell was going on half the time. And you meet some incredibly interesting characters, which I want to pick out a few of those in particular.
Okay.
You've got some great sequences. You've got some awesome shots. You've got some awesome use of music and style all mixed together. But at the end of the day, I still couldn't tell you what happened in this film.
Got you.
From start to finish. I've got pieces, and I think if with a second viewing, I could start to piece it all together, but it did lose some points with me simply because I don't expect a film to be completely clear.
Sure.
I'm okay with ambiguous films. This film wasn't trying to be ambiguous. This film was just throwing so many names and references and links that went in different directions to me that I had a hard time processing it all. That's where I'm coming from with the film. How do you feel about it?
I think we're on the same page, and I think when I was watching this, I was comparing it to 2 films.
Okay.
One of which was The Master, which was Mr. Anderson's previous
film with Joaquin Phoenix.
Right, with Joaquin Phoenix as well, in a big role. And then I was also comparing it to The Big Lebowski.
Okay, yes.
The Coen
I can see
Brothers
that,
movie,
sure.
which is one of my all-time favorite movies. But because when I had heard the idea of this movie, it's about kind of a detective. He's kind of on, he does drugs. He's kind of like bumbling along, kind of doesn't know what he's doing, or does he? But
well, yeah, it's an interesting question.
And, he just kind of that mindset. I was like, okay, Lebowski wasn't a detective, but he was trying to figure out what was going on and kind of playing an amateur detective in a way.
Yeah.
So I was using that as a reference point for like what I thought this film was going to be. And I fall pretty much on the same page where I liked the film, but afterwards it was hard to kind of grasp what I had just been watching.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, just like you, I watched it in 2 pieces. Mm-hmm. And it was late at night, and that second part, I just was like, what's going on? And unfortunately, after I finished it, I didn't have a chance to go back and watch it again.
Right.
But all that being said, usually on a film that I didn't respond to at all, I would just write it off and be like, oh, it was so boring, I couldn't make it through it, or didn't have anything worthwhile. But there were several characters that were interesting, and the interplay between Doc Sportello, played by Phoenix, and Josh Brolin's character, Bigfoot.
Yes.
And I guess a more typical movie would have used that more as a framing device, or kind of like that would have kind of led you through the movie. They're kind of antagonistic, but yet they still kind of helped each other. That kind of thing would have been kind of your guide. And I guess even though just like you, sometimes I'd like movies to be a little bit more ambiguous. I could have used a little bit more definition.
Yeah, I tell you what, imagine if we didn't have the narrator.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, because the narrator at times would start to gel things together for me. I'm like, okay, I get it now. Okay, I understand where they're going.
I think I know what's happening.
And then they would go a long spell without the narrator. I'm like, okay, I'm lost again. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's demanding in that I want to tell people watching this film, don't pay attention to the plot. Just turn your brain off.
Right.
Just go in for the visuals, go in for the dialogue, go in for the scenery, go in for the camera work, go in for all the film aspects of it. But don't worry about the story. But I also think that's a cop-out too, because I think you're going to give us a detective story where we're following a character to solve a mystery. At the end of the day, the mystery itself isn't as important.
It's a MacGuffin.
It is.
Yeah.
But I still had a hard time understanding what I was supposed to get out of by the end because so many things have been thrown at me. There's a lot more of interest with the Bigfoot character, and he was probably my favorite fascinating character in the film, Josh Brolin.
I think it may be my favorite thing I think I've ever seen Josh Brolin do.
Well, absolutely that. I agree with you on that. I just think his character has so many levels and layers that I want to watch the film a second time almost exclusively to pay attention to his character.
Well, and that was a surprise to me because I assumed I was just going to be interested in Sportello, and I just, wanted to, spend as much time with him as possible. But yeah, I brightened up whenever Bigfoot would come.
Sportello to me was the most straightforward character. I felt like I knew him probably the best of anybody else because his character was pretty straightforward. I got the impression that he's a guy that just kind of has drifted through life, and he's now stumbled into a role as a PI. He enjoys it, but he's not like this over-exuberant PI.
Right.
But yet he's pretty good at it.
Surprisingly so.
Yeah. Even to the point of utilizing disguises and kind of acting at times.
Right.
But I think he's more of an observer. He's like, I'm just here to observe what's going on, and if I can make sense of it all, awesome. If I can't, oh well. And I was okay with that. I liked his character. I really do think Joaquin Phoenix was really good in this. I enjoyed watching him a lot. I will say a lot of things I liked about the film. I think Josh Brolin's Christian Bigfort Bjornsson as the police or as a cop he's working with, man, they could have really played for just pure laughs. The stoner PI partnering with the straight-laced, big, manly detective.
Right.
But they really subverted that in a lot of places. There was actually a scene, not to go into too many details of it, but with them on the phone with each other.
Yes.
But the wife gets involved.
Yes.
And, oh my gosh, I'm rolling during that scene because it's just so ridiculous. And it puts you in a whole different frame of reference of how this Bigfoot character really is.
Right.
It was great. So I love their dynamic. Any scenes where they had together, a scene in a diner was a great scene. Really interesting interplay between the two of them.
I wonder something else, which there again, it could be because I'm comparing it to Big Lebowski, and it probably is. Something that kind of took me off guard was this movie did have funny moments.
Oh, yeah.
But where like Lebowski, it was more of a comedy than it was a mystery. And it's hard to classify what this film was because it did have, I think I was expecting, because I was kind of in the Lebowski mindset, that it was going to be funnier. I thought Sportello would be like nonstop, like kind of being a dork or like a clueless dude and all this kind of, but that didn't happen. It still had funny moments, but it wasn't that. Like you've hinted or told about, it also wasn't a mystery.
Yeah.
So it's not a comedy, not a mystery. It's more of just kind of an experiment in style and time period.
Well, I think it was a harken back to the Chinatown, The Big Sleep, some of these 60s and 70s style film noirs where they were really subverting this idea of what a film noir mystery was. But where P.T. Anderson's not really as interested in the mystery.
No.
He's interested in the characters.
Right.
He wants to introduce a really wild palette of characters to you and enjoy how they interact and experience each other.
Right.
And with that, this movie shines. You got Martin Short, who I think hilarious in this.
Yep.
Very short scene, but
and
very
that was the other thing.
impactful.
I saw him and I was like, okay, here's going to be, but yeah, short-lived. But while he was there, he was
Dr.
awesome.
Rudy Blatnoy, DDS, with the Golden Fang Association.
Yep.
Perfectly legal, by the way.
Right.
Just some great moments there. Now, I will say, really, the only thing I can pull out of this, Chris, that I did not like was the plotting. It was just the way the plotting was handled and the fact that we did not know what was going on. Again, I think that was partially planned.
Sure.
I think it wanted to be this sprawling, almost like when you get to the point where Doc is looking at a whiteboard where he's kind of written up the connections and it's all over the place. I think that's the point. It's like, yeah, this movie is meant to be all over the place. It just was so much all over the place that it made it frustrating to watch at times.
Sure.
I could have done with a little more clarification on some things.
Well, for instance, during the course of this movie, it's not a mystery. It's technically 3 different mysteries in a way. He's looking for his disappeared girlfriend. He agrees to track down a guy for the Black Panther member.
Yep.
And then he agrees to try to find a musician who's married. His wife gets him to go find my husband. I think he may be dead, but yet I don't know if he's dead. So there's 3 different mysteries that in any one movie would be enough on its own to sustain.
Now, there was some interconnection between the 3 mysteries, but it was not always clear exactly how they were connected. And, you kind of had to just take it with a grain of salt that they were.
Right.
I want to call it a couple of moments that I just wanted to see if you enjoyed them as much as I did.
Okay.
I already mentioned the dialogue with Bigfoot and Doc on the phone and the wife getting involved, which I thought was really hilarious.
That is good. Is there a separate dialogue conversation where it's Bigfoot and his son is helping him pour a drink, or is that the same conversation?
That's a separate phone.
But that's a separate.
But
I
that's
like
also
that.
a really good one too.
As well.
Yeah. Really, any of the dialogues the two of them had were great, but there was the one
priceless.
where the wife got involved in the phone call and was just it was really funny.
Yeah.
Did you notice the sequence where Doc and in Shasta, his girlfriend at the time that is now the one that's missing, ex-girl, they do the Ouija board sequence to try to find somewhere where they could get some drugs.
Right.
And they come up with a phone number somehow on the Ouija board. They call the phone number and it's an answering machine, and they get all excited thinking that it's giving them directions on where to go find drugs.
Right.
And they go running off in the rain to this place, and it turns out to be just a dry cleaning joint. But as they walk, I don't know if you noticed or not, but as they go down that street and they pass the cleaners, they're looking for something, they go and there's a giant open lot, nothing in it.
Okay.
Behind a chain link fence.
Okay.
And then they come back and end up back in the cleaners. Well, Doc goes back in current time to that same location. But as he goes past the cleaners and goes to where that empty lot was, now all of a sudden there's this huge building.
Okay.
It was the Golden Fang building, basically, where Martin Short is. And the whole time I'm thinking, okay, how did they do that? Did they really just time it to where that building got demolished and they were able to shoot one scene before while it was there and one after it got demolished? Because it was not in that other shot.
Gotcha.
Or were they doing some great matte work and CGI work where they just made it look it wasn't there? But it was pretty amazing to me. It was it was really got to me within a couple minutes span, that building is there and it's not. And it really looked like they shot this at 2 totally different time periods.
Got you.
That was awesome. So that was a really nice touch on some things. Again, I mentioned the use of music, which I thought was really good. Just style-wise in general, there's just a lot of random shots that were really interesting. And there's a shot early on where Doc is going to check out a company or a storefront, and he goes and it's kind of out in this big open field, and it's seemed like it's kind of deserted out by itself. And as he turns around and looks at one point, all these people kind of pop up from behind these bushes way off in the distance. And you think maybe, is that an illusion? Is it something he's tripping out on or whatever? Come to find out later, no, they really are police officers waiting to surround him there. Right. But just the way it was shot, it was so trippy looking, but yet it was real, Mm-hmm. That's why I said I was actually surprised that this was not more of a psychedelic, crazy visual movie than it was. It was actually a lot more straight-laced than I expected it to be.
Right. And I think I was kind of on the same page. And that's what made me kind of confused at the end of it, that I didn't understand it better. Because I thought if it had been more psychedelic, then I wasn't expecting to understand it. But the fact that it is seemingly straightforward, but yet it's not. So
it was I use the word demanding just because I do think I could have gone with the word complex or complicated, whatever. But the thing is, I say demanding because this is a film I think I have to watch a second time.
Absolutely.
So that's where
you actually want to
I do.
watch it
No, I definitely want to watch it. I hate that I only rented it for 24 hours. I'm how am I going to watch it again now? Because I do want to see it again. I really want to, now that I can know that not to pay as much attention to some of the nuances, let me really see if I can follow the story. Mm-hmm. And if it's even meant for me to be able to follow the story. That's kind of what I want to get at a second time.
There's a performance that I'm curious about what you thought of this character. Jade, the character of Jade, who is played by an Asian actress named Hong Chow.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What did you think about?
Oh, I thought she was really good.
Okay, so did I. Did I. And she
shows up in the first place he goes to check out.
Right.
Has some interesting scenes there. And then she shows up later on in the film. And
right.
Yeah, she's probably got the most screen time besides Doc and Shasta She's right up there with Owen Wilson's character as far as screen time, which is pretty cool. So
Right.
yeah.
And I really enjoyed her. I was like, oh, cool, when she would come back on. So,
yeah, no, she was really good. What did you make, and I don't want to get into spoilers with this, but what did you make of the role of the narrator? The narrator was a girl that obviously was good friends with Doc.
Right.
Is present in many times throughout the film. But later on in the film, and this is probably one of those areas where I need to go back and watch it again,
Right.
they make a reference to her in her name, which is a very unique name, and I don't have it pulled up here, but
Right.
I think there's supposed to be something more with her role and her name and the role she's playing as a narrator that I just didn't get. Her name is Sordelege,
Something like that. Yeah.
played by Joanna Newsom.
Right.
Again, why she's the narrator, what impact she has on the story, that was a little vague to me.
It was muddy for me as well. Yeah.
Benicio del Toro's role.
Oh, I liked him.
Oh, he was really good.
Yeah, yeah.
I just was still trying to figure out exactly what his role was and kind of how he factored into it. And then I'll say too, I think probably one of my favorite set pieces was his office. Just this hallway, like this very nonchalant office building where you don't really quite know what's in the other rooms, but it's
Are you talking about Doc's office?
Yeah, Doc's
It was like a
office.
dentist office, wasn't it?
Was his a dentist? No, I thought the Golden Fang building was the dentist office. Or is there other dental work going on in his space too?
I have to go back and look.
But just the receptionist at the front.
Right.
And, Doc's just kind of there, and you go into his room, and it's just a room. And it's like you go in the hallway, and there's like all these people like crowded in. They're not there to see him. They're there for other things. Just
Right.
something about that environment was just so perfect for
Yeah.
him.
Was.
There's so many good things about this film. It's just, I wish I could have enjoyed it front to back without it being so infuriating sometimes.
Sure.
So you got a good way to sum it up.
Yeah, sure.
So, do you have a one-word review for this film?
I do.
Yeah.
Hazy.
Hey, oh, perfect.
That's
See,
going to be mine.
This one word. I think this thing's going to catch on. One-word reviews. This is the Apple Watch edition of film reviews is
There
what
you
we're
go.
doing with these one-word reviews. You want it when you're looking at your Apple Watch, if you end up getting one of those, you glance at your watch. Oh, look, they just posted a review of Inherent Vice. Chris calls it hazy. Perfect. That's all
Okay.
we need. That is the review. So that's Inherent Vice, the latest from Paul Thomas Anderson. We both recommend seeing it, but do not rent it if you're not going to be able to watch it a second time.
Yeah, I would say you need to, be able to follow it through.
Be prepared to rent it a second time or just go ahead and buy it. Pay the $15 and buy it so you can watch it several times because you will need that to really understand and absorb the film pretty well.
Agreed.
All right. We're going to move on to our second review, which is the very low-budget independent film from a filmmaker I'm not at all familiar with. The film is called Buzzard.
How long was that break?
3 hours.
3 hours? Dude, this job is awesome.
No, it's not. It's bogus.
I have an easy job for you, Marty.
I'll get to it, Carol, but, I got a lot going on around here, so...
A genuinely brilliant contemporary satire of workplace frustrations, like Office Space on crack.
You can't just take someone's check and make it yours, man. It doesn't work like that.
There's private surveillance cameras all over my place. Is 7:30 for Detroit leave yet? Don't call the cops. It's not necessary. Call the cops.
Welcome back to Footcandle Films here on themesh.tv. I'm Alan. As I'm pointing across the table, that is Chris.
Hello.
We just finished our review of Inherent Vice. My word was demanding. Chris's was hazy.
Hazy.
So there you go. That's all you need to know about our review in case you skipped that first part. Now let's move on to our second film, which is a very different type of film, although I'm going to attempt to draw parallels.
Okay.
The film is called Buzzard. In it, much like Inherent Vice, we follow, for the most part, one individual throughout the entire film. He has various interactions with other people. We don't always know as much about this character as we'd like. We get hints about his background and past, but not clearly spelled out for us. He's played actor I'm not familiar with, Joshua Berg, playing the main character, Marty Jakatansky.
Yes, great name.
And basically, he is a small-time con artist. We see him throughout the film pulling very low-level crime con artist work.
Right.
Doesn't ever get very dangerous, doesn't get too high profile. But it starts to accelerate at a certain point in the film to the point where he does start to get very paranoid about what's going on. So he makes some decisions to distance himself, to try to leave, go to another environment, to get away from what he feels like is going to be this mounting incrimination against him. Chris, this film was recommended to us, maybe?
Yeah.
We heard about it. We checked it out.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and give you my one word just review. I have no problem with it. The word is discouraging. I really did not like this film.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why, and as simple as possible. Then I will try to glean some positives from it, but I definitely am anxious to hear your thoughts.
Okay.
I love independent filmmaking.
Yes.
And I defend independent filmmaking a lot, especially in the part of the country where we live. We're in Western North Carolina. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of times I sometimes feel like I have to defend this idea of independent filmmaking because a lot of people can throw labels at it that it's weird for the sake of being weird. People will criticize independent filmmaking as being, it's not a good cohesive story. It doesn't have a start, middle, end. It's very nebulous. It's kind of random. It's all over the place. And I'm always very, very quick to defend independent filmmaking because I love the genre. This film makes it really hard for me to defend independent filmmaking because I feel like they're pulling every possible cliche of we want to be a hip, independent, edgy film. And in the end of the day, it was more infuriating for me to watch than anything else. I was intrigued by the main character, and I thought the actor was good. But man, the story, the style, the tone, everything, nothing worked for me at all on this thing. So let me turn it over to you. Your thoughts on this?
Well, the film, for me, having watched it close to Inherent Vice, I also drew kind of parallels that they were both like outsiders.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Both were outsiders, and unfortunately, the Marty Jakatansky character, he's kind of depressing. It's a downer.
He's not a fun character to watch and follow for very long.
But what I can admire about this movie is that instead of playing it for laughs, because he's a strange character. He's kind of a loser. If you want to label people, he's a loser.
Yep.
He is a con artist, and he's been able to make money, but he's never... It's like he's a con artist, but he's not extremely good at it, but yet he's okay at it.
He can get by, but his whole goal is if he can score $5 off of something, he feels like he accomplished something. Which,
right.
In the grand scheme of things, that's not really helping his matter very much.
And it's kind of a character study of a very sad, pathetic person.
Yeah.
And I thought independent nature of the film was that they kind of laid it bare and then made him very normal. I mean, normal as far as they didn't try to heighten anything.
Yeah.
And therefore, I can see how you could get agitated that there wasn't a lot going, to portray normal life. It just showed him sitting on a couch. There's a lot of time spent in a couch and in a basement. And
that didn't bother me. Okay. I actually liked the real life aspect of it. I thought that was good. Actually, the opening sequence of the film where we see it almost exclusively just his face.
Yes.
Where he sits down with a bank teller and we come to find out that he's basically pulling a con, a really minor con. He's basically found a loophole where he can open and close checking accounts and get a $50 rebate for doing it.
And he works at this same place.
Yeah. That scene was great. And actually that opening scene, even the point where the teller or the bank officer he's working with leaves for a while to go deal with something or to go process some things. And all we're doing is just sitting there watching this main character, like just watching him. Like it goes on for like a couple minutes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I thought, okay, I'm digging this. This is good. And I actually think the character at the beginning of the film is not the same character we're following the rest of the movie. I actually think he was much more interesting in those opening moments, but he devolves for me throughout the film to be much more juvenile, much more, I don't know. The person I saw at the beginning of the film in that bank sequence seemed a lot more intelligent and savvy. But as we come to find out, he really is not. He became a lot less interesting to me as the film went on. And you
don't really have a turning point or a thing is like why that happened.
I don't think it was truly character development or de-development for him. I think it was just the writing, which just got sloppy after a while. It made him a lot easier to be a true loser and a jerk and an idiot, where in the beginning of the film, I actually thought they were trying to show us somebody who was kind of had a plan or was at least able to pull off some interesting things, but he just got dumber as the film went on.
Well, something I thought was interesting is that in two different instances, he has some phone calls with his mom.
Yeah.
And I thought those shed some light. If they wanted him to just be very one-dimensional, a one-dimensional loser, they could have just left those out altogether. But they don't make you feel completely sympathetic for him, but yet they give you a little bit more of they flesh him out a little bit more.
There's a little glimpse where you do get the impression that he had some challenges growing up that his parents or his mother's very cognizant of,
right?
That they're very concerned about for him, but we don't really know much more beyond that.
There's 3 things that I can hang. I definitely like this film more than you. I can tell.
No, it wouldn't take much.
The interesting use of, and maybe they leaned on a little bit too much, but the interesting use of a Nintendo Power Glove as a weapon. You're rolling your eyes.
I am.
I found that interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And how he, literally he's a big horror movie fan. He is a nerd, and he decides that he wants to fashion a Nintendo Power Glove so that it's a Freddy Krueger glove.
Yeah.
I found that kind of interesting.
Here's what I'm thinking happened, Chris, at the formation of this film.
Okay.
I think the guys who wrote it and directed it, I don't know their names. I apologize. I'm speaking for you, and I don't know you personally.
Well, actually, and the guy who played his best friend, there are very few actors, which I guess is another independent small movie thing. Budget's probably not that big. The guy who played his best friend, Derek, is the writer and director of the movie.
Oh, really?
Joel Petroikis.
We'll talk about him in a minute.
Okay. So, we'll get to him. We'll get to Derek. Okay.
I almost get the impression they all sat around one day and said, 2 cool ideas popped up. The idea of a really, really low-level con artist.
Okay.
Like low level. Like we're talking coupon manipulation, finding loopholes in banks, checking accounts. I mean, little things that he might get $5 here or $10 here. I think they had this idea of, wouldn't it be cool to make a film about a kid who's just like that, who can do these things, but yet he's still pretty much a loser for that. And then somebody else came to them with this idea of a Freddy Krueger Game Boy glove. And it's almost like they found a way to try to force these 2 storylines together.
You totally have to make that movie.
Yes. And that's where I feel like my fault with this particular style of independent filmmaking starts to come in. Because I feel like it's just, we have 2 cool ideas. Let's figure out a way to cram them together in a film. We're going to make the tone jump all over the place at times. Where, do you laugh at this? Are you cringing? What is it? And yes, let's have a couple obligatory long shots that just linger on forever because that seems kind of cool to do. Let's have him stuff the spaghetti in his face for 5 minutes.
I knew you were going to call that one out. I've got a reason why I think that's awesome.
I love long sequences and I love long takes. Inherent Vice had a really, really good long take towards the end of the film between Doc and Shasta that went on for probably 10 minutes dialogue. I love long shots. I love long shots where nobody's doing anything. These just seemed gratuitous to say, look at us, we're independent filmmakers and we've got long shots where nothing happens. And it was frustrating. It was very frustrating to watch. I don't know. I just watched this last night. I watched it really late last night and I did have to rewind a few times because I dozed off a couple times, but I did watch it all. So I am speaking from, I did see all this and I've rewound parts to make sure I was kind of catching what I need to catch. And it's still frustrating.
So I mentioned the Freddy Krueger glove. There were 2 other instances where I felt like they were just very true. Just, I don't know. I thought they said a lot about the film, and they may seem kind of weird. One you've already touched on, so I'll touch on that one first. The spaghetti eating thing. Mm-hmm. He finally gets a chance to get some money, and he blows it by going to a hotel and getting an expensive spaghetti meal and eating it very sloppily. That image of him doing that, and it's just, to me, called back to Clockwork Orange and Alex, and the way he was even eating it, open mouth and kind of mechanically, and the Clockwork Orange is a whole comment on criminal system and treatment, and this movie kind of having that, I'm just shoveling food because this is I've made it, I've made some money. I don't know. I really thought that was an interesting. To me, it was, now whether or not that was intentional, probably not. But to me, that reference to Clockwork Orange.
I totally see. It sounds like there's something.
And he was dressed in all white, which Alex was in
That's
the
something that I would see the independent filmmakers that I've been describing so far in my review, who had 2 cool ideas and decided to make a movie out of it. It's totally something I would see them saying, oh, this would be just like Clockwork Orange. Let's have him sit there and stuff all the spaghetti in his face and do that. And let's just let the camera roll the whole time. I admire when people do callbacks to films, and I admire when they are adventurous and creative with the camera and the pacing of a film and the tone. I just felt like this was all just gratuitous. I felt much like I did with that Charlie Sheen movie we reviewed, where what was it? I don't remember the name of it.
Something Charles Swan.
Charles Swan.
Yeah.
Where I just felt like they were being quirky and weird just to say, look how quirky and weird we are in the film. And I really feel like with Buzzard, it's, look, we're edgy independent filmmakers. Look, we did long takes, and look, we did callbacks to classic films, and you have to kind of really pick apart. And we're going to throw these couple ideas together, and we're going to have this really weird, random first main character. It felt very cliche to me.
See, I hear what you're saying, but I disagree with it.
All right.
Not that I think this is a perfect film by any means, but the final one I'll mention, actually there are two more, but portraying, young men that don't really have a direction in life, that are kind of losers, and the game they come up with, eating bugles.
Okay, that was okay. No, I mean, I'll admit that sequence was
that's a
okay.
stupid thing that two kind of like losers would kind of come up with because they're bored, they don't have anything else to do. They make competition out of nothing, and I found that entertaining.
I thought it was an interesting sequence.
And actually really shot cool. The way
it was an interesting sequence. I just don't feel like it belonged or deserved to be with the rest of the film. It just didn't work for me in that. And I think mainly it's because the dynamic with the roommate, who you've told me is the writer-director. I almost feel like there again that they admired the film Napoleon Dynamite earlier in their life.
Well,
and said, you know what? And they said,
this is like a dark version of Napoleon Dynamite.
But I think they looked at Napoleon Dynamite and said, ooh, we kind of like the idea of having a kind of a weird best friend who's kind of dorky but doesn't think he's dorky, and let's have him have some funny moments that we can laugh about, even though we're kind of in the middle of a dark, depressing movie. And his scenes, all the scenes, first off, I don't think that guy's a good actor. I mean, I just don't think his roommate's a good actor. I think it was very forced. Honestly, that role may have killed a good part of my enthusiasm for the film.
Well,
because it was forced humor. It was very Napoleon Dynamite-ish, let's say really absurd, weird things, and have people laugh about it. But it just didn't fit where the film was going, even from that opening bake shot that I like so much.
Well, and I'll say, too, that, I think definitely the strength of the movie is on the Marty character, Joshua Burge's performance of that. With such a strong performance, which I felt like it was, it does kind of show the weakness of a lesser performance in his friend Derek.
The friend character was a stereotype that they tried to do based off of so many quirky independent films.
I see.
And it didn't fit the main character. I really think that was it. I think once the friend was introduced, and especially when they were started, I didn't mind their play fights and kind of all that, but it's just the character himself was just so stereotype, quirky best friend from an independent comedy that it killed it for me. You know what? The more I'm thinking about it, I think it may have been that character that just really ruined the film for me a lot more.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, Buzzard, I'm not going to recommend you see it.
And your one word
was it discouraging?
Discouraging.
Mainly because I don't want people watching this and thinking this is what independent filmmaking is.
Wow.
That's just me. What's your one word?
My one word is cautionary. Okay. And I'm saying that because, not because of the reason of I don't want people to watch this. I mean, this is definitely a niche movie. If you like independent film, I would say seek this out.
Maybe.
I thought it was okay.
If you like bad independent film, absolutely go check it out. No,
harsh.
I'm sorry. I'm going to back off now. You close up.
But cautionary for me because it's kind of like Clockwork Orange was cautionary. That's my summary of this. Is it's a person who's making bad choices, and just it is sad and it's depressing, but it's cautionary as to look what to isolationism, being a loner, can have happen. So cautionary is my one word.
Okay, synopsis. Good enough. Well, that is our two reviews for the show. We've got Inherent Vice, which we both liked, but we need the second viewings on.
Yes.
And then we've got Buzzard, which I did not like. No. Chris found things to like, sounded like a lot more, and appreciated a lot more. It is an interesting film. Actually, I'm encouraging people to check out Buzzard simply because I do want to hear your feedback. I want to see if there's things I'm missing. I want to hear if there's just something I'm missing the boat on, because I didn't get it with this. Hi, Alan and Chris here with an exciting announcement about something coming to the Western North Carolina area later this year. It's the first ever Footcandle Film Festival.
That's right, an honest-to-goodness film festival that's happening September 25th through the 27th at the Salt Block in Hickory, North Carolina. Films are being submitted from all over the world to be considered.
Do you or someone you know have a film that you'd like to submit? Visit footcandle.org and follow the link to the festival for instructions.
Stay tuned later in the year as we announce our choices and start selling tickets.
Visit footcandle.org for more information. We'll see you in September. All right, Chris, let's hit a couple really quick news items. I know we're time-wise. I want to get onto our picks for sure, but there are a couple of interesting news items I thought we may want to just hit on really quick, if that's okay with you.
Sure, let's do it.
First off, and I'm trying to figure out where to go with this exactly, because I know we try to avoid the comic book superhero overflow of news.
If Hollywood would decide to make more than 2 movies that weren't that, it would probably be a lot easier to do. Well, it seems like so much of the bulk of what they make is.
My question is I think we've talked about it in a previous episode, the Suicide Squad movie through DC.
Right.
Did we talk about this?
I think we touched on it. I'm not sure if I think maybe mentioned some of the characters that were. And I've said I was trying to compare it to Guardians of the Galaxy. Was this going to be kind of like it's DC as opposed to Marvel? So was this going to be DC's like Guardians of the Galaxy? It kind of comes out of nowhere. And maybe it's really successful.
Well, it's just interesting that they keep adding more and more big talent to this film.
Give me a rundown of the cast thus far.
We've got Margot Robbie, who from Wolf of Wall Street, as Harley Quinn.
Okay.
We've got Scott Eastwood. Yes, that Eastwood. It's Clint's son.
Okay.
Playing a role. I don't know, they don't have it listed.
Okay.
You've got Jai Courtney, who he was in one of those Terminator recent movies. I'm trying to think what else he's been in. Will Smith.
Now, the one I know of, Will Smith's playing, they have...
Deadshot.
Okay.
Then you got Jared Leto.
That's the one I knew
as
about.
the Joker.
Was Joker. Yeah.
Yeah. You got Joel Kinnaman, who I don't remember what he was in recently, but he's been in a lot of films.
Okay.
He's Rick Flag. Jesse Eisenberg is rumored to be in it as Lex Luthor. He's going to be in the Batman Superman film, but supposedly he's in Suicide Squad as well.
Wow.
Viola Davis is going to be in there. They just named, do you remember on Lost, the guy who played Mr. Echo?
Oh, yeah.
He's now signed on to play Killer Croc, which is a Batman villain.
Yeah.
Jay Hernandez, who's like you'd recognize him if you saw him in a film. He's in it. It's like, oh my gosh, what are they doing with this movie? I mean, it's sounding interesting now.
It's like the Avenger or X-Men of bad guys. There's so many big people playing.
And you got David Ayer directing it, who his last film he did was Fury.
Interesting.
He did End of Watch. That's where that Jay Hernandez, I believe, was in that as well.
Okay.
He did Training Day. He was a writer and producer of Training Day. He wasn't the director of it. So we've got a guy who's, doing a lot of gritty, more grounded films with Fury and End of Watch and writing Training Day. And now he's directing a whole huge cast for a group of supervillains.
Okay.
Now, is this going to be a group of villains that really don't have like any superpowers? They're just kind of more ground level villains,
right?
Bad guys. I don't know, but I'm definitely more intrigued every time they release a little bit more information about this.
Yeah, me too. And growing up as a kid, granted this was with Disney movies, I always liked the villains of the movies.
Sure.
Better than the heroes because they were always more interesting.
Well, and generally in superhero movies, that used to be kind of the case before the Marvel movies came around.
Right.
I think when the Marvel movies came, it's definitely been more about the heroes, and the villains have not been as impressive.
You know what? I think you've hit on something there that I've never considered. That's why I don't like the Marvel movies that much.
The villains are not as interesting.
No. And
Loki,
in the Avengers movies, they're boring.
Loki has been the most interesting villain.
Loki is interesting, and I love him, but like he teams up with the aliens that come and like attack the city.
Aliens are nothing.
And that's just like they're faceless, and there's just...
Well, you look at every true Marvel film. I'm not counting the Spider-Man movies from Sam Raimi. Those were not Marvel films, really.
Right.
I'm talking about the Captain America, the Thors, the Iron Mans. Iron Man. All the villains in the Iron Man movies have been forgettable.
Yeah.
All the villains in the Captain America, Red Skull was good, but he could have been better.
Right.
Avengers, we had Loki, but that was the only thing. Thor, you had Loki, but then the other villains in the Thor movies have not been impressive. Yeah, it's like they focus on the heroes. They're making the heroes cool, but the villains are not. Before, when we had the old Superman movies, the villains were always pretty interesting.
Right.
Especially Superman 2 with the whole trio of them.
Yes.
Even the Spider-Man films of Sam Raimi, I would say Dr. Octopus was a very interesting villain played by, that guy.
Yes.
That guy.
Yes.
He was really good.
That guy. That guy, you were awesome. I know who you're talking about.
So, Yeah, I think that's what it is. I think it's missing. And of course, in the Batman films, almost always in the Batman films, the villains have been the more interesting aspect.
And I think that's what has me intrigued about Suicide Squad is it's flipping it on its head, and it's a bunch of bad guys teaming up and going to do something. And I think that idea to me sounds like it's going to be amazing.
I got to ask, did you see Cinderella?
I did.
Yeah, tell me real quick, because here's why I'm curious. I like Kenneth Branagh, and he was the director of the film. From what I'm hearing, it's a very classic fairy tale movie.
Yes.
It doesn't try to subvert the genre. It doesn't try to do any revolutionary thing with it.
It's not what we would call a, quote, air quotes, reboot or anything like that. It is a standard, real live action telling of the Cinderella movie.
Okay. Did it work for you?
It was okay. If I were to say a down point, and it's not the movie's fault, nothing's really unexpected. It is the straightforward Cinderella telling. There's nothing really revelatory about anything. Nothing really is added or a new dimension. I would say what made it worthwhile for me was Cate Blanchett playing the evil stepmother.
Oh, okay, good.
And there's a scene towards the end where she and Cinderella have a confrontation where there's a big dialogue scene between the two of them. And through the dialogue, Cate Blanchett is able to add some nuance to the character of a evil wicked stepmother, if you can say such character can have a nuance. And that, I guess, was something that was a little added that maybe made you kind of reflect on her character a little more.
Interesting.
So that was something, and granted, that's, almost at the end of the movie.
Still,
so you're kind of like, okay, here is something that's a little refreshing, that is kind of new. But it's good.
So I don't have a daughter at home, so I really have no reason to go see it. Nobody's clamoring to go see it.
Whereas mine had been seeing this preview for a long time.
Sure. I was just curious because, it did sound like, I was happy to see that they didn't try to do some big revisionary version of it, or all of a sudden this is like a sequel in a weird way, like that Alice in Wonderland movie was that Tim Burton did.
Right.
It's like I kind of liked it being the idea that maybe just a classic telling of it. I'm all for that. I think that's great.
I think if I could have said something that I would have preferred, since they were going that whole classic route and more of a realistic route, yes, they still do have the not stepmother, but the fairy godmother who turns things into a carrot. So all that still happens. But that was very controlled and narrowed down. And I kind of wish they would have, in a way, the mice did not talk to Cinderella, but she could kind of understand him, and she was really good friends with him. I wish that would have been downplayed a little more. But I think everybody expects that because of the original Disney movie. But if they would have downplayed that even more and made the movie, quote unquote, realistic for a fairy tale, I think I may have even liked it more, because I found the parts with the mice to be a little bit too sugar coated and sugary sweet.
Right. Okay.
So,
all right. Well, cool. Good. Thanks for that. Well, last thing I was going to mention, just because we've got a little bit of a geographical connection to the film and we've talked about it, you and I on the side. The trailer for the film Masterminds has come out. And Masterminds is the film that we were longingly looking forward to being called Loomis Fargo.
Yes.
This is about bank robbers, a true story, bank robbers who basically rip off millions of dollars from a Loomis Fargo at the time, which is now Wells Fargo, truck, and made out like bandits and basically spent all the money just in ridiculous ways. They're very simple-minded Southern people. And it became like this huge story. So a movie's been made now. And the trailer's out, which I did get to see last night.
I haven't seen the trailer
and
yet. Should I see the trailer?
The trailer's fine.
Okay.
It's not hysterical. It's called Masterminds. I liked it better with the first name. It does star Kristen Wiig. It's got Zach Galifianakis as the lead guy as well. I think Zach Galifianakis and Kristen Wiig are the bank robbers.
Okay.
Then you've got Owen Wilson in there. I'm not sure what role he plays exactly. And you've got Jason Sudeikis, who seems to be either a federal marshal or maybe somebody tracking him down. I'm not sure. Four very, very funny people. The trailer was not hysterical, but it did have a couple of moments that made me think there's a good movie there.
Okay.
It's by Jared Hess, who did Napoleon Dynamite.
Right.
Harking back to our review, where I mentioned that in a very negative fashion. And, of course, this all took place in North Carolina, just like an hour from where we're recording. So we were kind of anxious to see what this film looks like. And it does look like it's coming out in about August, September. And could be interesting. So I'm just saying it's worth... I know you and I try to be very careful about what trailers we watch. to get too much heavy anticipation for a film. This is one where I kind of think you do need to see the trailer to get a sense for whether or not this is a film you're going to look forward to or not.
Okay.
So, anyway, we'll leave it at that.
You wouldn't think it ruins anything.
No, definitely not. And it's definitely playing for more of a straight comedy than anything. So obviously you want to see, is this a film that's going to make me laugh or not? So I think that's kind of the message there. So let's wrap up. I know we could probably go on with news for quite a while longer, but let's kind of wrap up and talk about our recommendation. We want to close out the show here with what we would recommend you check out, maybe something we've seen recently, something we think you ought to check out. You can hopefully find online, find available. Can be new, can be old, anything goes. Chris, what have you got for us?
Okay. Well, Alan, I am recommending this film, A, obviously because I've seen it, and B, because I like it, but C, because I want to renew your faith in independent film.
Thank you. I need to be resuscitated.
Yes. I am recommending the 2013 film Coherence. And what this was is a lot of people compared it to Primer.
Yes.
And other people have kind of compared it to things like Predestination, or there's which we talked about on a previous show, that has to do with time travel, but that one has a bigger budget. But another film that I recommended way back on one of our Footcandle episodes called Time Crimes.
Oh, right. I remember you talking about that.
So Time Crimes and Primer, both of those were definition of low budget and happened to be science fiction. This one is independent, low budget, and also science fiction. And the idea behind it is there are 8 friends who are gathering for a dinner party, and there is a astronomical event that happens, a passing of a comet.
Okay.
And stuff starts to get weird.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the best way to encapsulate it. And, ostensibly, it's an independent movie because there are not a lot of special effects, and you just have 8 people sitting in a house, so that makes it pretty cheap because your setting is basically the house. But the stuff that goes on and the way people react to one another and how they react to situations was all very interesting to me. And I admired the fact that they were able to pull it off and keep it interesting, and where the film ends up after everything is said and done was also a little bit of a surprise to me.
Wow.
I'll throw out there too, the one I love that we reviewed on a previous show.
Sure.
This is kind of, how it's all set in kind of a house, and it's all about the idea and not necessarily obviously the special effects. And This has no big names that I recognized at all. So you have 8 actors that I've never heard of.
I've been intrigued about this film, so I'm glad you saw it and are recommending it.
Did you ever see the show Roswell?
No.
Okay, because I'm assuming this is legitimate. One of the friends he says he's an actor, and he actually says that he was the lead in that show Roswell. I'm wondering if that's actually true.
That'd be funny.
Because I never saw that show. I've heard of the show, but never saw it. But anyways, I recommend it. It's a very good, small indie movie. It's pretty short as well. It's only like 89 minutes or so. So I recommend it. I think it could restore your faith in independent film.
Okay. All right. No, I actually I read the description of it. I haven't seen the trailer or anything. All I need is a recommendation, and I have it now. So yes, I will be adding that to my queue very closely here. Okay. So man, if I've recommended this film, it was years ago on the show.
Okay.
So I apologize for you purists out there that are recording everything we say and have the wikis dedicated to the show. I apologize if I've recommended this film again, but I read an essay about this film just recently that made me start to think more about it and kind of watch parts of it again. It's American Psycho with Christian Bale, one of Christian Bale's first adult roles, I guess you could say. This is a film that was disturbing to me the first time I saw it. Second time I saw it, I really started to appreciate it, and now it's much more of a curiosity to me than anything else. It's based on what's the guy's name? Brent Easton Ellis novel. An adaptation by a woman named Mary Herron, which I think is really awesome that a female directed this, because you would have watched this and think, male some guy did it. But no, it's definitely a female did it, and it was awesome. Christian Bale is phenomenal, and it's still probably the best thing I think I've seen him do. I really liked him in The Fighter. I think he was really good there, but this is probably still his most interesting performance and dynamic performance.
Okay.
The reason I like this film, and a lot of people write it off as just over the top, it's violent, it's more about the quotes, it's all that, the lines that are used and kind of how absurd it is in places. What really gets me out of this film is it's got an ambiguous ending that works. There's an ending to this film that you're still wondering what really just happened. And it's not a cliche. It's not a, they're just trying to pull and come up and say that everything you just saw was fake or whatever. No, it's really leaving you with, oh my gosh, I don't really understand what just happened, but I love the fact that I'm still asking questions about it. So when I saw an essay was published just recently about the ending of American Psycho and what somebody else wrote, they said things happen. I'm like eating it up. I'm like, oh, this is great, because there are so many theories you can throw out there about it. Basically, for those of you not familiar, it's a guy who he's kind of in a Wall Street, high-powered, very slick. This is like 80s where it's all about fashion, and it's all about who's got the coolest business card and what kind of paper you print the business card on. But in his free time, he murders people. And he does it in very interesting, gruesome ways.
Usually to a song soundtrack.
Usually to a song. Unfortunately, Phil Collins, and unfortunately, my guys, Huey Lewis and the News, kind of got their song. God, what was the song that he Hip to Be Square got really kind of maligned by the use of the film here. It's just an interesting film, but it's not for the faint of heart. My wife detests this movie and will not watch it. I got a feeling I've recommended it before, because I think I've even remember saying that phrase on the microphone here. But again, I'm only bringing it up because I've noticed a couple more essays starting to pop up in the film community online websites talking about this film again. I don't know what's caused the resurgence, but I've enjoyed reading a couple of essays lately, and it's made me want to go back and watch it again, even though I've seen it a couple times not too far back. So,
got you.
Anyway, American Psycho, still think is a very interesting film.
Okay.
So with that, are we done?
I think we are.
So, Inherent Vice, we both give a good review. My review is a 3.5-star review of Inherent Vice. And I'll tell you, I could easily get a 0.5 star added back to it with a second viewing.
So we're talking Letterboxd probably here.
Yeah, Letterboxd.
Okay.
So that's where my Letterboxd rating is going to be. It's 3.5 now. But if you see it pop up to 4 stars in the next few days, that means I watched it again and I'm appreciating it more because I'm following the plot a little bit better.
I think you and I are dead on. I think I'm probably 3.5 on that as well.
Good.
For the same reason.
Not bad. Not bad with that. Buzzard, I'll give it a 0.5 star because of the lead performance, and I'll give it a 1 star for just trying something.
Okay.
I'll give them that. So 1.5 stars.
Okay. I'm on a 3 on that.
3 stars?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
3. And then we did a couple news items, and then we just gave our recommendations to check out. So we definitely, Coherence and American Psycho, we both are saying are interesting films to check out. Very different films, but very interesting ones. So with that, Chris, if somebody wanted to give us some feedback about what we've been talking about, or they want to really get on to me about my review of Buzzard, what should they do?
Let me give you a cell phone number. No, no. Actually, the best way is to email us at info@themesh.tv and just tell us what you liked, didn't like about our reviews, or you can suggest a movie that's coming out that you definitely want us to review. But that's probably the number one way you can get a hold of us, is through that email.
A good email. Of course, we encourage you to go on iTunes and give us some star ratings. You can post a review on the show if you want to there. And then just go on themesh.tv in general. That's themesh.tv. Go and dig up Footcandle films, and you can go back and listen to old podcasts. If there's films you really like and you heard we did a review of it, go back and listen to it, and still drop us a line. Let us know what you thought. We'd love to hear from you. And we respond to emails we get occasionally. Every once in a while, we find one we want to read on the air. We'd love to have even more to be reading through, and have a few more to read on the air every once in a while too. So feel free to shoot us a line. So with that, I guess we're going to wrap it up. I will just say as a closing note, visit footcandle.org to learn more about our film society. That was kind of the origin of this show many years ago. We screened some films in Western North Carolina for a very large audience, film lovers in our community. And we're really excited, as we've been posting up a lot of news about it, about the upcoming Footcandle Film Festival. That's right. This show is going to have a film festival named after it in about, like 6 months.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Uh-oh is right. 6 months away. And we are getting film submissions in from all around the world. We'll be showing films here in good old Hickory, North Carolina at the beautiful Salt Block Auditorium. And it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be the weekend of September 25th through the 27th. Go ahead and make your plans now. Come out and plan on joining us. Tickets will be going on sale probably in the July-ish time frame, but we'll have more details about when that happens. And come visit us in Hickory and enjoy some great fall weather and some good films we'll be watching together. So that'll be the Footcandle Film Festival. You can go to footcandle.org, and we've got a button there about the film festival, or you can just go straight to footcandlefilmfestival.com. Either way, That's where you can go to sign up to get more information. So with that, let's wrap it up. I know we've got another show we're recording probably just within a week or so here. We've got some other films to discuss. So we'll look forward to talking to everybody then. Take care.
Thanks for listening. See you in the ticket run.
Watch news through the courtesy of Footcandle Film Society.
Special thanks to Carpal Tuller for the show theme music. For more about Carpal Tuller, visit www.carpaltuller.com. You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard.